Charles, you are the wind beneath my wings.
Oh, thank you, darling.
Thank you. I am not the technical one here.
I know.
I freely admit that. You know, we come up with these ideas and you make them happen. Like, how did this come about?
Believe it or not, it's all because of Anchor. Anchor has the tools. It lets me record, edit, and distribute right from the computer. Sometimes I do it from my phone. It's just as easy either way.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're on like dozens of platforms, though.
It's true. Anchor makes it easy to distribute our podcast on platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcast, and dozens more. It's everything we need, and it's all in one place. And you'll love this part. It's all completely free.
Oh, thank God.
Right. I use Anchor for pretty much every aspect of getting our show out there and into the listeners' ears.
That's amazing.
It is. And if you, dear listeners, want to get into the podcasting game, you just need to download the Anchor app or go to Anchor.fm to get started.
Maybe Anchor's the wind beneath my wings.
Hey!
Coming to you from the dining room table at East Barbary Lane, welcome to a very special edition of Full Circle, the podcast. Our last episode, I racked my brain in the morning trying to figure out what a useful response was to the news. There's just so much going on, and you know, within our own community of trans and gender non-conforming folk, we're playing whack-a-mole in this country, and you know, we have another mass shooting in Uvalde, Texas, and you know, there's nothing I'm going to say that every raging liberal isn't saying, and you know, I'm going to leave that to them. We're in the very fortunate position of having a dear friend who is a 2-time Peabody Award-winning radio host for 35 years, almost 35 years in Philadelphia, and more than 35 years throughout this country. She has hosted children's radio. She hosts WXPN's Kids Corner, which with the advent of technology is no longer just a little local show. You can listen to Kids Corner almost anywhere, and we'll provide that link. Welcome to the Full Circle table, Kathy O'Connell.
Thank you so much. It's so cool to be here at your table, like I've never been there anywhere, anytime before. But yes, and thank you for that kind introduction. And I will try to live up to it, because the fact is, as soon as I thought about, okay, music for bad times, where do you go for bad times? I went back to, and you're talking about, going back a long way, the Challenger.
Right.
And that kind of was where my go-to comes from, which is the Rainbow Connection.
Mm.
The Rainbow Connection, which, if you've ever seen the documentary about Paul Williams, you will know, is the most popular song or well-known song in the world. Right. But it also is this self-reflective why song about things that have no explanation and no answer. And the thing is, in a world where adults and kids are really kind of dealing with the same horrendous experience at once, we're all definitely in that same boat. We're all, on that, in that canoe with Kermit, or however the Muppet Show starts, go see the movie.
You're right.
But that's the fact. And it's times like that when kids immediately are asking, are asking all, questions that we don't have an answer to.
Right. Yeah.
And that not only do we not have an answer to, but the answer we may have in the moment, it may be so, full of emotion that we're really not doing ourselves or our kids, that much good. And aren't you glad you asked one simple question that I just went off on? Okay.
I'm going to come back to it.
Did you even ask a question?
I didn't yet. You
didn't even say who we were yet.
I am Martha Madrigal.
And I am Charles Tyson Jr. Okay, we got that out of the way.
Okay, there you go.
My goodness.
Thank you. See, he pays attention to the details.
Yeah, that's why he's the producer.
I know. I know. I sit here and try to be pretty. Um,
And you do.
thank you. For those who don't know your show,
Hmm.
would you give us an overview?
It's basically a call-in radio show for kids. It's aimed at officially at ages 6 through 12. I get them all over the place, and I've done it so long now that I get kids who grew up listening to me who are now adults who may have children of their own, or who may not have children of their own,
Right.
who
Right.
also definitely listen to me. And but it started out as every day call-ins, but technology and changes, and the last couple of years especially, have evolved to the point where it's live with call-ins 2 nights a week, and that's me and the kids just talking to each other. And
Right.
the rest of the time, it's a mix of science, conversations, and regular contributors and guests on a variety of subjects that are interesting to kids, like science and pets and it's something that they're actually going to learn from occasionally.
Right. And
It's
books.
but what it really is.
Uh-huh.
It's the Soupy sales show that you learn from occasionally.
We will
There
we will get to Soupy. He's on here. Did you want to get to Soupy now and just get
No,
that out of the no? Okay.
not
Well,
yet, but just as an explanation of part of my approach.
yeah, no, and it's an
Gotcha.
amazing approach, and it's always fascinated me that in this era of screen time, when kids are just bombarded with visual things, and they've got video games, and they've got smartphones in front of them.
Cocoa lemon or melon or whatever
You
it's
still
called.
have a loyal listenership. I don't even know. You still have a loyal listenership of children who call in, who pay attention, and get that time on the radio, either to answer a question or play an instrument or and a lot of the times I know you do have topics. So they're calling in to share something specific. One of the things I learned, I never realized this as a kid, is until I had children of my own who were your listeners. There's a big difference between kind of talking at kids and talking to kids.
Mm-hmm.
And that you are the master of talking to kids and really with them.
That's true. I've seen you do it.
Yeah. Well, it amazes me because you get them to talk. You get really shy children to talk to you.
And I wish I knew how, and I kind of do, but because I've been thinking about this as we, came to the last few days to, the real crux of it. And I finally came to it while I was walking my dog. And that is, nobody ever talked in my family. We were funny and witty and, said a lot and talked at each other. And I can tell you a million stories about my family. Mm-hmm. But as far as talking with us about anything, and without going into a whole lot of detail, let's just say there's a line from All About Eve. What a story. Everything but the bloodhound snapping at her rear end. And that's basically my childhood and, life as it is for so many people. And nobody in my family kind of ever talked to us about it. So things just happened. And I didn't realize when I was a kid, well, the one thing you just know when you're a kid is that you are powerless.
Right.
Because really you are. And if you don't think you have any power to ask, well, wait a minute, what's going on here? And, what about me? If you don't think you have that power to ask that, nobody's going to give it to you, especially if they came from a family where nobody ever talked to each other.
Right.
Right.
So I just think maybe part of it is I was always a really good babysitter. I just really was. B, I love to talk, but also no grown up really ever kind of talked to me like that in my life.
Right.
And maybe I learned from not having it.
And, my parents are probably about 10 years older than or younger than yours would be.
Mm-hmm.
So but they're still that kind of depression generation.
Yeah.
And they didn't include us. We gleaned from their conversations and what we overheard, but we weren't part of the conversation. You've even at times brought in experts on your show.
Oh, yeah.
To talk about really hard things like domestic violence and sexual abuse, and hopefully spur conversations. And that to me is incredible, because it is giving children that agency that they don't have.
Right.
And the vast majority of kids, as I said, it's a call-in show and it's great. And the interaction of me with kids it is a lot of fun to listen to. But the fact is, the vast number of kids who are listening to Kids Corner and who might get something out of what I'm doing do not call. And may just be the kid who's sitting in a bedroom in, the middle of nowhere and thinks there's nobody else like them in the world. And here's somebody who knows what they're talking about.
Right.
Right.
Talk to them and validate, saying, yeah, you should not be getting hit. That just letting them know that, yeah, here's somebody who knows what they're talking about, telling you something directly. And my role in that is, okay, here's somebody you know she's an idiot on the radio, but you know her, right. And she's bringing her. So there's a certain level of trust.
Yeah, and that is amazing. And
yeah, I am grateful every day, as you know.
I do. Yeah. I do. Absolutely, I do.
I fell into this.
When we were emailing back and forth, I mentioned I Wear Pink, because I think that was the first.
Oh, wait a minute.
A song.
To be clear.
Yeah, and I do wear pink.
Conversation. Exactly.
Some of it has come from you. So I'm going to say there is no question, and should be no question, that Kathy O'Connell is a staunch ally to the trans community. My wardrobe reflects it. My heart reflects it. And I know many of the trans folks who are now walking around as adults who you have walked with over the years, and now they're turning 30 and they're vibrant and they're out there being anarchists and shaking things up.
Rabble rousers.
And I adore it. But I remember, and I think you brought the song to my attention because there was an email. You had gotten pushback.
Yeah.
Was that the first time somebody called you an anarchist, or what was the term?
Oh, communist. Oh, no.
Communist.
Yeah, 6 months go by and I don't get called a communist or something,
You're not doing it right.
Then I'm not living up to my union ancestors.
Thank God for public radio. Yeah.
And honestly, I'm surprised I don't get a whole lot more complaints. Just because of, and we'll get deeply into the other stuff I do play. But yeah, we should background. The song is called I Wear Pink. It's from a band called Hullabaloo, which is basically two guys from California. And the song was introduced at a gathering of kids independent artists, Kindie artists we had at WXPN called KindieCom. And Steve Denyas, the musician who created it, got up on stage during a showcase and was like, I just wanted to test out this song, and I figured this is the audience to do it with. And it's the first lyrics are, I play with dolls and I wear pink.
Yep.
I don't care at all what anybody thinks. And it's just this, he is who he is.
Right.
And I kind of think it's, given what's come after it and the loud, proud music that's come out since then a few years ago, it's kind of middle, really, this is what you're excited about? Because and I got a letter, I got an email about it, an angry email from a parent, I know the homosexual agenda was in there somewhere. I know that was mentioned in there. But and I and this, like we said, thank God for public radio. I forwarded it because I'm a good company girl. I am Lisa Simpson.
Yeah.
I forwarded it to my bosses just to say, just so you're aware,
Yeah.
they're calling Mama Kami again. Should I respond? And luckily, I have a program director who once said to me, when I responded, shall we say angrily to something someone said, why don't you just respond, thank you for your thoughts?
Mm-hmm.
And he said that to me years ago, and it's like, So I go, and I said to both, do you want me to say thank you for your, I'll respond if you want.
Right.
And, my program director said, no, some things just don't deserve a response.
Also,
if you want to, but it really doesn't deserve a response. Like, dude, don't listen to me. Good.
Thank you for your thoughts. That sounds like bless your heart.
Yeah, exactly.
It really does.
Exactly. I didn't stop playing it.
Exactly.
There's so much more. You think you're going to complain about I wear pink? Oh, wait.
Wait till you hear say their names.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
We are gonna put together a playlist that we will share with this episode. And a lot of it is now talking about trans and gender nonconforming kids. And, it's amazing to me. It's just amazing to me because a lot of the debate is around what is age appropriate. And it's like, oh, come on. Because kids are so resilient. And, I say often, our real fight is that we are real. That's our biggest, because everyone coming against us with religion and politics is that's their premise, that we don't really exist. We don't know ourselves and they know us better. And there's all this music coming out for children that just says you're real, and you play it. There's some great stuff out there.
I got to jump into, because truly I point. That's what I do. That's my, I point at things that some incredible people have created. And the fact is, if there were not a market for this music, and that market is, we are everywhere. Trans families, every kid, every 5-year-olds know a trans kid or know someone. Or no, they may not know the words for it yet, but they're just, okay, it's another person. It's part of who you are.
Right. Yeah.
And kids are so accepting. And the fact is, these are wonderful musicians who are singing from their hearts and truly creating from their hearts. But also because they say there's many more of us out there. There's many more parents of trans kids and allies of trans kids and teachers and kids of trans people who all operate together and vote, please.
Yes, thank you.
But who exist.
Yeah.
Billy Tipton. Look him up.
Okay.
Billy Tipton. And if you're scratching your head, learn your history.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
And we need to recognize that, just because we try to wrap kids' brains in bubble wrap, that does not make them stupid. They can see, they can hear, they know what's going on around them. So
they do. And
another element of that too, Charles, is, and this is like, there's an old joke about the kid who says to his, parents, where did I come from? And they go into a whole song and dance explaining reproduction and science and blah, blah. And all they want to know is, so, Joey said he's from Hoboken. I want, where am I from?
Right.
Lily on Modern Family. My parents are gay, so I'm gay. She announced, I'm gay. It's like there's so you can send out a message without hitting kids and people over the head with it.
Right.
And the whole, oh honey, this is how you're supposed to think genre of kids music, which thankfully has, you know, kind of gone by the wayside long ago, has been replaced and energized by this more energy of real life. And you see it reflected in a lot of subject matter, including racial equality and issues of things that are being shut down all over or attempted to be shut down.
Right.
But you can't stop the beat.
Get out of my head, lady.
It always gets back to show tunes, kid.
It always does. It really does. Through the pandemic, so our bar was closed because normally when your show is on at 7:30 our time, or 7 to 8 our time, so we would be in the bar and we would be working, and everybody wanted to watch Jeopardy, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But during the pandemic,
I approve of, by the way.
We were regular listeners, and I don't know how many songs came out of what was going on at the moment.
Yeah.
With the protests and all of that, like Say Their Names.
Yes, which made me, I was sitting on the couch sobbing.
He was.
Because that song was so perfect in every way. Yeah, I've learned to just put Shazam on auto when Kids Corner is on, because I get tired of picking up my phone every time I hear a song going, what's that? Ooh,
what's that? What's that?
And
I am live, by the way, on the air.
Exactly. Working.
But you're my my media guru anyway.
So
and
I
that's
hear.
Just another aspect of it. It's like, wow, this is kids music. Wow, I'm gonna put this on my playlist. Wow, it's great stuff.
I get to point at it. I get to point to the real work being done by, and I have to give a shout out right now to Radio Weave, WEE, and it's Uncle Devin, who is a brilliant drummer and radio person, who created a radio show on the Pacifica station out of Washington. And we can address this today, or even do another whole thing on this, about how white the Grammys were a few years ago, at a time when a lot of music was being created by people of color.
Oh yeah.
About their own experience historically. And also then Black Lives Matters, came to the streets, where people came together in the streets to address some of this. And the Grammys, their nominations in the kids music category did not reflect the brilliance of the music being made that year.
Right.
It was basically a bunch of white people at a time when some of the most brilliant music I have ever heard in almost 40 years of kids music was being created by a couple of artists. Saul Paul, Pierce Freelon, just, brilliant stuff. And Fuge, there's the name. And
who I now follow.
A lot of
social
artists
media.
got together and said, wait a minute, white and black, people of color and white said, hey, wait a minute. Here's all this great stuff. And we know it's being made by a real variety of people. How come it's not being reflected in the thing that's supposed to reflect the best of our industry?
Right.
Now, we can do a whole thing about how I do not actually believe the Grammys reflect the best of our industry and blah, blah, blah. They don't ask me.
Right.
But, the good work the Grammys do and truly do, which has now been magnified because as more people of color have entered the Grammy system and have increased the representation of these songs of power and empowerment, and songs that, Black women in history, Black people created STEM. These are actual songs, by the way. Look them up. I'll give you the playlist. And Uncle Devin out of Radio We, and you can find it online. And we love We love Uncle Devin. That he plays everything.
Mm.
I play the music I like. He plays such a rich mix of music for kids of color because, and I know you have heard me say this, Black people got money now.
Uh-huh.
And we have to stop approaching people of color like they're the poor relations.
Right.
Right.
Because and too much media, it just does. All right.
I think this was the first year when the Grammy nominations were announced in the kids category that you said, I'm good with whoever wins.
Yes, I really was. And I
was
wasn't just saying that to be nice.
Right.
Oh, no, I know. It was us. I mean, you wouldn't have been nice. You would have just said, I don't know.
Yeah, I really,
But you had said it's come so far quickly.
Yeah, it really did. And it's not, I don't want to make it sound like people who have joined this genre who are not white, white guys with guitars. We've always been white guys with guitars.
Always.
I don't want to make it sound like they're just, all doing this hit you over the head with, politics and history and all of that. There's this rich, just, mosaic, the music that we are being enriched by.
Yes.
And just check out artists who got together, the All One Tribe Collective.
Yes.
By Aaron Nigel Smith. And go find it. One Tribe Collective. There are, and just as the Songs for Trans and Binary Kids collection, there are artists who are putting together empowering collections of these songs and of these messages that are available in a way directly to kids and families like they never have been before. And by supporting the artists directly, buy their CDs. Yeah, you don't have a CD player, go find one. Go ask grandma for a CD player. Buy their online stuff. They can market and sell directly to their audience that needs it and can benefit most from it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think as the pendulum swings politically, and right now we're just being inundated with politics. I think the pendulum with the arts always swings, kind of in the opposite direction to say, we're all still here too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all still here. And we're all looking at the world like you are and saying, we have to respond. And I just think it's incredible that these things exist. I mean, none of this existed when we were kids. None of it.
Oh, no.
And now it's pretty amazing.
And I have to, Ella Jenkins and Pete Seeger and Tom Paxton. I mean, there are giants upon whose, shoulders I stand of the musical community. But at the same time, and if I may take it back to a certain name we've conjured already, the 1961 Grammy Award nominees included Soupy Sales for the Soupy Sales Show and Leonard Bernstein for some version of the Young People's Guide to the Orchestra that no real kids ever listened to. And guess who won? So the Grammys have never exactly been about what real kids listen to, and now it is.
Right. That's great. It's amazing.
That's the main difference.
Notice how I worked him in like at the halfway point too.
You did.
I do that.
You did. I'm impressed.
It's like a skill.
Yeah, it is. Like more like a vocation, but okay.
I've read something that I did not know. That when you did get started at WBAI as a volunteer on the floor in 1979, it was in response to
3 Mile Island.
3 Mile Island. I never knew that.
So my friend Larry Lee, there I was, an orphan living in Manhattan.
Yes.
But my friend Larry Lee, who was one of the kids who hung out at Channel 5 when Soupy Sales did his show there, and who's very political and was a big environmental activist. 3 Mile Island happened, and he told me about demonstrations that were happening, and he said, and if you really want information, you should listen to you should turn on WBAI.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of vaguely knew kind of about WBAI, but I hated talk radio because my father listened to talk radio, and anything Big Tom, had anything to do with, I wanted nothing to do with.
Yep.
But I was forced to listen to like Bob Grant and Ed and Pegeen Fitzgerald and like people just yammering on AM radio in the early 60s.
Right.
And it wasn't all Gene Shepard, believe me.
Right.
And but it was like, and I turned it on. I was like, wait a minute, people are talking to me, and smart people are talking to me, and sometimes stupid people are talking to me, and or smart people are saying stupid, funny things, and I started volunteering, answering phone, and they're always looking for volunteers, and I started answering phones, and I said, "Oh, honey, I'm home."
Nice.
I walked in and basically said, "Honey, I'm home." You're like, what? And I found a bunch of kindred spirits, which if you've ever met them, can be for good or bad.
Well,
but yeah, I discovered
I have.
The power of the medium of radio, the power of that solely audio medium, and what you could do with it. And even if it's just, and with me, as you know, it all revolves around me, but I felt so good, and it was what it brought to me by being on the radio, more than, ooh, look at what I can create here and what wonders and I happened to just be really good at it, at talking to people in the middle of the night.
Nice.
And didn't somebody walk out at WNYC? Was it Small Things Considered?
Okay, so I was at WBAI, and I wanted to make money, and the one thing people kept telling me in commercial radio was, if you want to make money, go move somewhere and come back to New York. And I never do things halfway, so I moved to California, worked in a couple of commercial, like legendary commercial stations, actually. KFAT, look it up, big book on it, and then came back to New York. Mm-hmm. And I got a job as a board operator, running as an engineer at WNYC, the public radio station in New York City. And I came back and right away got a show back at BAI, by the way. I was, it was still, Hail the Conquering Hero when I came back and figured out more how to talk to people. But, and I was board opping a show called Senior Edition. And I was hired by, and he is now dead, and I believe, was it Betty Davis who said, I do not speak, I only say good things about the dead, so he's dead. Good. His name was Larry Miller, and he was the single worst human being I have ever worked for in my entire life. And I loaded boxes in the Lipton factory in Santa Cruz, California. So I took bugs out of cashews, out of cans of cashews. And it was not as bad as working for Larry Miller. He would come in and the thing with the board at WNYC was I sat in the room with Marty Wayne, the lovely old man who was doing Senior Edition. I was in the room with them. I'm like just a few feet away from him, live in the room. And I would play some stupid thing. I'd push the wrong button because I used to be really good at technical stuff. I am not anymore, as Charles.
I believe you.
As Charles will really ascertain when I bring my laptop over to him to say, here, show me what to do. But,
I don't know what you're
not
talking
the
about.
only one of us who does that.
But anyway, for all, this person, whose name I will not say again, was just a terrible human being. But he had a dream of doing a call-in show for kids, and he wanted to call it Small Things Considered. And he partnered with a woman named Barbara Rosen, whose husband was one of the hostages in Iran.
Mm.
And it was was it 3 hours? My God, it could have been. But they ran Michael Jackson's ET recording. They ran a lot of recorded programming from NPR, but it was a block of children's programming. And part of it was call-ins. And because he was such a mean human being,
there she is.
My dog, Tammy.
That's Tammy.
Tammy. Well, she gets very angry about when I talk about this person. So,
okay.
as you can hear. And so he made me do the Best of Small Things Considered, a shortened version that ran on Saturdays. Was this part of my job when I got hired? No, but I had to do it. So I got to know the rhythm and everything of this stupid show that he and this woman did. And I got to know the library of music, and I got to know, just everything. And one day I'm sitting there, and part of my job too was babysitting tapes, that back when they had tapes. And I was babysitting whatever tape it was of, I think, All Things Considered, that came in on a reel-to-reel. And Barbara Rosen stormed into the studio that I'm in and started pulling records and started loading them into bags. And, not my records. So, and I haven't picked through them yet to take home and play on BAI. So I don't know what these records are. And he's muttering, like, try to do this without us and blah, 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 blah. And they walk out. Now, Small Things Considered was supposed to come on live in an hour and a half.
Okay.
In an hour and a half from that moment. And I'm just and the tapes are running. I got nothing to do except watch this tape, make sure we don't go off the air. Once again, I have the easy job. And 4 people in suits, and Mary Nichols, the then general manager of WNYC, who eventually fired me, laid me off, and is now dead. They came in, and one of them said, "We need you to help us out." And I said, and explained, well, they walked off and there's this live kids show that's about to come on. I said, you let me talk, I'll do anything you want.
There you go.
And that was how me on Small Things Considered was born. And halfway through, I said to Larry Orphaly, who is a lovely man, who was my partner, who became my partner on Small Things Considered, who was the program director at WNYC, then. I said to halfway through it, I said, I want to do this. I got the job, and Small Things Considered, which won its own Peabody Award, begat a national show called Kids America, where they brought in suddenly they had a whole lot of money, and to pay everybody, but me.
Right.
And then we got canceled on Christmas Eve, 1987. And Kids Corner started January 4th, 1988. Right. Okay, out of all that, find something. That whole saga.
Where I was going. And I love that story. It's it's the serendipity of it all.
Yeah.
And, but the fact that you came to radio as a result of a tragedy, and all of these things happened as a result. It's like, once you're where you belong and you're kind of aligning with just what you're here to do, kind of, really, that's your story. Those things all happened. And
once
then
you figure out who you are, and kids figure out who they are,
right.
Some of them do, really young. But once you figure out, it's true. It's like, once that thunderbolt hits,
there it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
And falling into this. I mean, I was really good at radio, and I was really, I did, I could still do, if things go south here, I could still do rock and roll, jock and all of that. But the kids thing is something that really stuck.
Well, I said to you, and I remember texting you after, while it was on, because it was taped. for International Women's Day.
Oh, yeah.
It was just the first time I had ever heard you not doing your kids show. And it was brilliant.
It was.
The music you curated,
It was
the
so
stories you
good.
told. I was like, of course she can do this. She can do anything
Right.
on the radio. But it really was. It was great. It was great.
I had
And
so much fun doing that. Oh, I played Julie Brown. Please,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't
you
think
did.
because I like them big and stupid. How
Right.
can it not be great?
it was so much fun. And just the mix of music and the knowledge that you brought, like, it, it's really the crux of what XPN is about. And it's what you do with kids' music. And I'm just used to that. But I was like, well, damn.
Right.
Well, damn.
Right.
All right.
Well,
All right.
I come from, and if I may start bringing him up a little bit, my media dad, my professional dad, in many ways, my second personal dad, was Soupy Sales. Now, when you read up on the life of Soupy Sales, so many things in his life happened because it was a job. I
Right,
started a kid show because it was a job. And why did you bring in your jazz music collection to use on your show? That's all I had. I didn't have any money. So, and much like Soupy, this improvisational, you got to be ready because it's a job. And, just to be ready at any moment for anything. And, kind of that has paid off. Also a line from Funny Girl, which is the moment when Barbara Streisand, and in this version, is asked, you can roller skate, can't you? And she says, can I roller skate?
Right.
And
Right.
that's basically how you have to approach everything. It's a job.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I learned to be, quick on my feet, which I am not otherwise, because I believe of Soupy and seeing and his influence and a lot of him.
There you go.
And I realized as I was thinking about this interview, part of what I did as a parent was, just keep things routine, keep things going. Because, my kids went through a lot of funerals and they were young. But it was, yes, we're really sad. Yes, this is hard. And I need you to do your homework. You know what I mean? And we're going to do it together. And it was just that. And bedtime is still 9:30. And that's because there's comfort in that for kids to have that routine.
Yes.
Comfort? Bedtime?
Well,
What is this bedtime of what?
I think knowing what to expect.
Remember. Also, again, here we back to my childhood. I shared a room with my grandmother. I never went to sleep before the 11 o'clock news was over. And I never asked about anything. So there were guerrillas fighting us.
Yeah.
In Vietnam. Guerrillas, mind you.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Because
Florida every year. We drove to Florida on vacation. I started sleeping under the covers with the covers pulled over my head because Fidel Castro was going to burst into our motel room at the Sahara Motel in Miami Beach. Right. Because I know nobody ever. And when I did have a reaction to something, like a house blew up in the housing development next to ours, blew up. Oh. And I got really scared of the stove to the point was like I wouldn't go in the room if the flame of the stove was on.
Right.
And I love my mother, and please do not judge her only by this. I do so many worse things to judge her by. But she had finally had enough really quickly. And she's like, oh, you jackass, come on. And she just gave me no choice but to get over it.
Right.
Which honestly, when you have no other choice, isn't so bad because you could kind of learn to move on.
Yeah.
Where I was trying to go.
I'm sorry. You never will get a chance to go anywhere. Hi, editor. Good luck.
You stayed on the radio through the pandemic. You kept talking to kids. And I wanted you to have a third Peabody for that period of time. Um, just talk about that. Talk about, because you really had some interesting new conversations,
Yeah.
and you made it kind of okay for things to be so weird.
Yeah, well, cause and the
I'm thinking Halloween in particular, but it was
I don't
through the whole
remember
thing.
Halloween.
You talked about, okay, it's going to be different this year, but,
Oh yeah,
tell me what you did, or tell
again,
me what
the
your parents did.
beauty of live radio is just you live in the moment, and then you go
Right.
home. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, the thing, and we're all still going through this. Let's remember, this is all still a process. But
Hmm.
while we're, as a community, as a society, are all going through it, this may be the biggest thing ever in this generation's lives. This may be the molding thing
Yeah.
of this generation of children, the pandemic kids, and how this is the they haven't known anything else.
Right.
And we know that now because it lasted for so long. I don't know why we immediately, when the announcement was made that, everything was going to shut down, our immediate response was, okay, well, we're going to stay live 2 days a week. We're going to maintain that connection. And primarily because it was live and something you could count on and something regular and as normal as could be in a completely abnormal, insane time. And I think it is vital for us as grown-ups, like, don't scare kids, but at the same time, we all went through this together. And
Hmm.
yeah, your life really did change many times in an awful, awful way.
Yeah.
And not seeing your grandmother, not being with people you love, not getting to go to the games that are really important to you, or graduate, or do. She's not happy with this. That this was something we all lived through together.
Right.
And as parents found their way through whatever this is going to be, the most the most powerless and yet most flexible creatures are kids.
Yes.
So you tell them, okay, you're going to learn from this now. We're going to make this happen and this and oh, by the way, parents who have no idea what you're doing, we can bring in a few resources for you here on the radio that maybe you could go check out. It's a tiny bit, but it's what we do.
Hmm.
Right.
Just let's maintain something. Let's talk about the rainbows that I'm seeing on my walk with Tammy. Let's talk about the rainbows I'm seeing, people make in windows.
Hmm.
And,
Nice.
there were, I would share projects that people were coming up with as they emerged more. God, I know we were really good, but again, I do live radio, so it really
You
does.
were. And, the thing I remember is just, kind of talking about the creativity. Like this is very different, but it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be bad.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're going to be home, and it's going to be like, maybe we are having a Zoom call with our grandmother. And, you talk to kids about that, like what's different about birthdays now?
Yeah.
How to, what's different, and what did you do?
And one of the things now it's coming back to me.
Mhm.
I thought it was really important to validate that I'm learning the new way of living. And
Right.
yeah, we can get through this, but pandemics are easy. Comedy is hard.
Right.
Like really, we can only lay so much doom and gloom while we are in the middle of a doom and gloom situation, we can only lay so much on kids
Right.
without expecting them to act out, to snap a little. So, like, there's a balance that every grown-up has to maintain of, I am scared to death. I don't want to scare you to death. That we all have had to learn to maintain. And part of it, I hope, is opening up more dialogues in families with parents and kids, because I think that is one of the things that came out, is that a lot of parents did have more opportunities to form whole, like, new you know what I mean?
Right.
A whole new level of their relationships.
Well, suddenly everyone was home.
Yeah.
Suddenly everyone was home, and it really did open up, I think, a lot of conversations. We, of course, they think we're just, I don't know, it's a trend, but I mean, there's a reality to the trans community growing, in that a whole bunch of adult humans, that suddenly had nothing but time, said, I can't go on like this anymore. I'm not busy. I'm working at home. I'm sitting with myself. And I think that was true for a lot of families. And I'm hoping, I hope the overall effect was positive. We talked about some of the situations where, if it was tough, it got tougher, where the kids didn't have the outlet of school. But overall, I think, we're having different and better conversations. What I love about your show, and the way that you have approached things over the years, is you're reality based.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there was no conversation about, well, maybe don't wear a mask. You played the song, wear your mask.
Yeah.
like, no, we follow science. We talk to scientists. And, that's right now, that's so refreshing.
Yeah.
It is.
There's a lot to be said for not being an actual educator at a time when education is very much under attack.
Yeah,
there's a lot to be said for being an enhancement to education and a resource.
Well, right. And how do we even, I don't even know how we talk to teachers. We know that they're leaving. We know that they are switching professions left and right, especially in places like Florida.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't want the job.
No.
Not right now.
Exactly. And on top of everything else, I think it's one of the bravest things in the world to be a parent who sends your kid to school every day. You've got to be scared to death.
Oh,
to be a teacher and to 1 minute be blamed for the degradation of the fall of the Roman Empire, and then a week later, we're going to teach you, we're going to give you a gun, and you're going to be in charge of keeping your kids alive. No.
Yeah, I saw a TikTok and the person was like, you don't even trust teachers with books.
Yeah. Right. And you whine and complain about teachers, and but you stick your kids there. They're in charge of your kids learning things that probably you should be, to your basic humanity, you should probably be teaching them at home very often.
Right.
Yeah, get me started. And I have wonderful parents who listen to me.
You do.
Yeah.
And a lot of them you've helped raise.
Yes. Well, poisoning young minds since 1988. They don't do a T-shirt that says that.
I was just going to say that would be a good shirt.
Wouldn't it? I'd wear that. Oh, I'd wear that proudly.
Back when we used to spend a lot more time in restaurants, and even in the bar that we owned, there were very few times that someone didn't approach our table and say, "Excuse me, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but you're Kathy O'Connell," because they just would hear you. And then we were sitting at the bar we owned, and it was an open mic night. And this guy got up and he's like, "I'm sorry, but is Kathy O'Connell here?" And then he spent, the first 5 minutes of his time talking about, I called in and I won a prize once. And
Yeah.
it just changed my life.
Oh.
And it was like, but that used to occur all the time.
Yeah.
Back in the days when things were
Back in the
a little more normal.
when I was out and about, when I used to go out, show
Right.
tunes. It's from Rent.
Show tunes.
In the long ago times.
And that's the thing. One of the, and I hate that I finally have broken down in doing this, but one of the phrases I have tried to banish from my life, and ideas that I sadly have tried to banish from my life, is back to normal, because
Right.
it will never be what it was before.
Right.
I see that the open Asian food bar at Wegmans is again open like a salad bar, and I'm like, oh, well, how long is that going to last?
Yeah,
There's
really.
basic changes that have happened in our lives that whatever and it's a chance to maybe do it better this time.
Right. I was going to say, there's a lot of things that we came to terms with that we realized weren't really that great before. There's no real need to go back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hugging. Arbitrary hugging.
The little mini power struggle that is a handshake.
We love hugs among people we love, but
Yes,
maybe it was out of control. Yeah, maybe it was.
Well, and I'm not going to tell any tales out of school, but there was a recent professional gathering at a place I'm familiar with.
Yep.
And I went to a party, and people are hugging me. It's like, really? I know I'm adorable. And these
Right. You are.
These were like, never mind. Don't hug. I'm elderly. Okay. I'll put that on a loop. By the way, just put I'm elderly.
I thought it was on a loop.
That would add a lot.
I thought it was on a loop.
Right.
It is. Well, no, you thought I was just looping. Okay.
Oh.
Hey, this was your idea.
It was my idea. You're right. It was. I said, I had the thought. What brought me the thought was I thought of Mr. Rogers, because I really was struggling with this. We were about to record, and I'm like, look to the helpers, and you've been a helper for a very long time, and you do, I think, responsibly and well use the familiarity you have with children to talk about some difficult topics, to bring certain things to light, and to provide a certain continuity. And I do. I am asking for your wisdom just overall in talking to these parents who are frightened, these teachers who have had it and are frightened, and these kids, because when this kind of scary stuff reaches a classroom, I don't think it gets more invasive than that. That's supposed to be a safe space. And
And the thing is, we all live with the reality that now there really is no safe space. We each live in it in our own way, in whatever, gathering or in whatever way.
Right.
We have to create our own safe spaces, because there are fewer and fewer of them going forward. And that is one of the things that, not so much the pandemic, but just real life has just, has changed.
Yeah.
You walk into a room, you look for the exit sign. Now, kids have to live with that. And this is the thing. There's a line, again, show tunes. There's a line from In the Heights where Kevin says to his daughter, so this is where you do better than me, because you can see a future that I can't. And kids still can see a future. You're working basically with somebody who, is all future. But it's getting less and less unlikely and out of reach. And if your powerless to begin with. And the great dreams that you hear adults talk about are just non-existent for you.
Right.
Hopefully you're going to start crafting your own dreams and places to make those dreams come true safely.
Right.
And I'm not saying there should be a revolution of young people, but there is going to be. They will take over. And the seeds that we are planting in talking to them and giving them information. And there used to be, oh God, what was it called? There was an approach to education which was all about problem solving.
Right.
And what was it? Cognitive learning. There was a phrase to it. And of course, because I am not an educator, I can't come up with it. And it's like that went out the window. And the next thing I know, natural selection is being taught in a science class in Arkansas as science.
Right.
So, the thing is, they're going to find out that you're lying to them. And it's not going to be pretty.
Yeah.
So, how about talking with them and finding out, what is going on and where you can find common ground to work for whatever, tomorrow is left.
Yeah. How important is history to you?
How important what?
How important is the teaching of history?
Oh, vital.
Yeah.
The most important thing to learn is actual history.
Right.
Howard Zinn should be taught in every classroom. There is a magazine series, I think it's for kids actually, well, it's for families, called Hard History.
Okay.
And looking at real history, the Tulsa Massacre, suffragettes getting beaten. Black suffragettes, who are they? The reality of what happened historically, just so we can go forward and make sure it doesn't happen again or happens in a different way. Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire made a difference.
Right.
Now everything gets done overseas where we have no control over workers, situations. So we have to kind of craft our reality going forward.
Yeah.
Speaking of history.
Oh, I was waiting. Yes.
I said I wanted to end this on a good note because it's so much fun. Your biggest inspiration. Let's talk about him.
Let's talk about him. So I turned on the TV one day, 1964, and my life changed because there was a guy named Soupy Sales on TV. And the first joke I remember was somebody said to him, Mr. Sales, don't you know, don't speak, Mr. Sales, don't you know the walls have ears? And there was a pan of a wall and it was covered with ears. And I thought it was the funniest thing I ever saw in my life. And he did reference, and he had a big old dog who grunted at him, who he interacted with. But at the same time, he looked directly at the camera and talked to me in a way that, other kids show hosts were great. Sonny Fox, Chuck McCann, Shari Lewis, but not where, you are talking to, I am ready to follow you wherever.
Right.
And so Soupy Sales was on TV in New York from 1964 to 1966. And on New Year's Eve, on New Year's Day, 1966, he had to work live. He was forced to work live. And he had a minute and a half to fill. And he looked into the camera and he said, kids, now I know your parents were out late last night and they're probably sleeping. And I want you to go into their room and quietly, be very quiet. And I want you to go into their wallets, your dad's wallet, your mom's purse, and take out the little green pieces of paper with pictures of
Yep.
men with beards on them. And I want you to send it to Soupy Sales. And I'll send you a postcard from Puerto Rico. And he got a pie in the face, and that was the end of the show. He got suspended for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He got suspended for 2 weeks for that. No kid in America thought it was for real. And to the rest of his life, he continued to get dollar bills in the mail because I used to open his mail and find them. But while he was suspended, one of the articles about the suspension talked about the group of kids, the group of teenagers who came to the studio every day to be part of the audience of his show. And a light bulb went off on my Long Island suburban brain. And I said, I could go watch his show. And on May 27th, 1965, Ascension Thursday, for the first time, I went to Channel 5 and basically hung out at the studio, saw the Soupy Sales show, came back as often as my babysitting money would let me.
Right.
And basically the next 5 years of my life revolved. We had a group of kids, eventually, which whittled down to about 5 of us, who built our lives basically stalking Soupy Sales, following him everywhere, learning how to decipher airport schedules. Now, this is 1967, 68, and we're figuring out, well, if he's going to go to LA to do the Carol Burnett show, we could go to JFK and meet him and see him. He has no part of this. He knows us. And, we're the gang to him, but we're just like, our lives were built around him. I spent the college money my grandmother had saved for me by working in a hat factory. I spent it to go to Atlanta in 1968 with Donna Golder to see him do Finian's Rainbow for 2 weeks.
Uh-huh.
Nice.
And then at one point I discovered a life of my own, but I would find things over the years and mail them to him because I knew exactly where he lived because we hung out in front of his house.
Right.
And I reconnected with him in about 2002.
Yeah.
And actually I reconnected with him previously since doing the kids stuff and since having, news articles about me. And he did an appearance in Philly that I came out to, and I gave him a bunch of my clippings, and he was I got to see him all proud. But and again, editor, you can you can skip to this part now. In 2002, I reconnected with Soupy and actually met his wife, Trudy Carson Sales.
Yes.
And we connected on a point where they became my second parents.
Yes.
And I was with him when he died. I had the great gift of, he had nothing to do but sit there and talk to me. He was retired. She's in the kitchen cooking. And
Right.
I got the great gift of just having him talk to me and just remembering things. Maybe he was remembering correctly, maybe he wasn't, but sharing things with him, watching Bird with him, watching the movie Bird with the man who knew all these jazz guys.
Yeah.
Which I still have to see.
Was just, incredible. And it was, for me, I got to see in the eyes of someone who knew me since I was 13 years old, I got to see the proud dad look in his eyes that I never got to see from my family because they were all dead. They had no look at all. So that was there were a lot of, I used to say to him all the time, thank God I wasted my life on you. And as it turned out, thank God I wasted my life on him. There. So you start there and you work backwards, or that's the end of that piece. Okay.
And I got to meet, I never got to meet Soupy, but I got to meet Trudy shortly after he died. And she's mom, She's mom.
And you got to meet White Fang and Blacktooth.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Again, and I walked into their bar one night after I had done an interview, a TV interview. So I was all made up and I wanted to show you how good I looked. And I had brought White Fang and Blacktooth with me to show on the TV show. And there was a guy I'd never met in my life who was like, is that White Fang?
Oh, yeah. He was totally I'm such a fan. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He took his picture with White Fang. It was great.
That's right. That's right.
And I have White Fang because one night I was leaving Soupy and Trudy's apartment, and Trudy waves a baggie at me and says, "Do you want to take home White Fang and Blacktooth?" And I said, "No, too much responsibility." And Soupy said, "Take them. Take." Yep. And so he gave them to me.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the project that Rowan University is working on? Can we?
Yeah.
Is that
I'd love to.
Because that's
my plan. It hasn't completely happened yet, but I have gotten interest from the TV and radio department at Rowan University, and they are doing something quite remarkable there. They are building a world-class television history and radio history archive.
Mm-hmm.
And to that end, I know they have a Howdy Doody collection, because David Bianculli, a media writer, wonderful TV writer, is involved with it as well. And the head of the department is an old colleague of mine from WXPN. And he was over one day, and I kind of just showed him a lot of stuff I have brought home over the years from their house, and stuff I've bought on eBay and things like that over the years, but an enormous collection of Soupy's archives,
right,
and scripts and just stuff, articles, just the history, his career. And I am donating a whole lot of him there. So amazing. Future generations, like I have heard for so many years, you should write a book, I'm not going to write a book, but somebody is going to write a book someday, really commit, they'll use me, a complete, book about him. And there will be all this stuff.
Right. Not lost.
That would, and I'm just very happy. And I'm also, donating some of my Gunsmoke collection, and just, there's going to be a lot less stuff in my house, and I'm very happy about that. But the important part is TV history and the role of it, not just in what it gives to the people who watch it, or each generation who discovers it, but how it influences those people who create what the next generation gets. So you gotta keep going back to Howdy Doody and Shari Lewis and Soupy Sales to see where everything comes from, and Mr. Rogers.
Oh yeah.
What was the movie that Soupy had never seen?
Oh, Face in the Crowd. Oh, okay. Right. So Face in the Crowd, everybody, when this is finished, I'm not telling you to go right now, but when this is finished, go watch A Face in the Crowd. Andy Griffith's greatest performance. Yes, I'm serious.
Okay. I agree. Okay. I agree.
About a guy named Lonesome Road. So, okay. So it's coming on, and I'm like all excited, and, Soupy's sitting next to me in his wheelchair. Trudy's in the kitchen making incredible food. And I'm like, oh, it's A Face in the Crowd. This is great, And he's like, I've never seen it. I go, what, are you kidding me? You've never seen it? How have you never seen A Face in the Crowd? It's about early television. And he said, I was busy making early television. And so I watched it to the end. He was like that. That was the beauty. No matter how much things were shutting down, with his body, we could still have that connection. And that was a really great gift to the end. You would say to him, are you comfortable? I make a nice living. So
right. Yeah. And, maybe that is one of the key takeaways, um, is humor. And, we've got to find the places and the ways to laugh. And I mean,
Yeah.
it's how the three of us survived through the pandemic.
Yeah.
I mean, we found what was funny.
Find a bubble. And one of the beauties, and truly, this kind of gets back to the beginning. Very good place to start. But we can find our communities in whole new ways that were not open to the three of us when
Right.
we were kids. If I had known this soupy community existed and I could continue to interact with them online, during those times when I had to live with my real life in, miserable public high school, if I had known, okay, no matter what, there's these people over here. Now, remember, you could also have a community of serial killers that way. And there were some aspects of not soupy, but let's say people around soupy who were more unsavory than you.
Mhm.
How about that?
It is amazing. I am constantly in love with the young people I meet today, because by and large, they're so much more open to one another. They're so much kinder to one another. And things like gender and sexuality are just a given. Like, you tell me who you are and I believe you and I accept you. And it is a different world. And anytime I think there's progress, there are always going to be some people that are afraid of progress.
Yeah.
And they're going to try to stand in the way.
Yeah, but okay, I already did. You can't stop the beat.
Well, no, but
but that's the fact.
I think that's where we're going. You can't.
And you can't. And, no matter how many times Rumpelstiltskin in Florida jumps up and down and makes laws and says, you can't do this, you can't do, you can. And, you can find ways to get the information out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, hit the catacombs. Oh, wait, that's the Catholic school education coming through again. Yeah, get it out there.
And now, I mean, this is one of the other reasons I really wanted to do this. Your show is not just a Philadelphia show, right? We can reach.
XPN.org. You can listen live, Monday through Thursday. But also there are shows archived there. There's also a series that I did for adults called Kathy Chats that started up during the pandemic about a variety of topics. Again, I do it live and then I forget it. So, go listen and tell me what it was.
And we can link to all of these things in the notes of this episode.
Yes.
Well, one of the things I'm looking forward to is I'm doing a series with someone I love called Kathy Talks to Her Trans Kid. My trans kid is like pushing 40, so don't, but I look forward to that. And it's mostly him sitting there telling me what I've done wrong, which is always nice.
Well, yeah. Hey.
One of the greatest gifts he has given me, and I was bragging about this forever. I used to brag how after he came out to me, how much, wow, it really doesn't matter, does it? And I was kind of proud of feeling that way. Right. Except that kind of dishonored what was very important to him.
True.
And I never realized that. And I very much realize it now. So I get a lot out of the Kathy Chats. So I'm hoping others will as well. And each of us is constantly evolving.
Nice.
I hope.
True. Yeah, we are. We are. I hope that you will come back. There are so many things we can talk about.
Right.
Maybe. I don't know. I think we've.
Okay.
Well, exactly. Because there'll be some horror up ahead.
Oh,
well,
Rainbow. I'm telling you, throw on Rainbow Connection. Parents, if there are questions where, I don't know why this happens and I'm upset too, and I don't know, throw on Kermit the Frog or any version of Rainbow Connection therein and just listen to it together, and you'll get through it.
Yeah.
Together. That's how we do it.
And make your own together. Find an adult you trust. And if you got to make your own together, that's what you'll do.
Beautiful.
On that note, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I am Martha Madrigal.
And I am Charles Tyson Jr.
And thank you so much, Kathy O'Connell, for spending time with us today.
Thank you. I love you.
I love you.
I'm going to go buy us donuts.
Yay!
Bye.
Bye.
Full Circle is a Never Scared Productions podcast, hosted by Charles Tyson Jr. and Martha Madrigal, produced and edited by Never Scared, executive produced by Charles Tyson Jr. and Martha Madrigal. Our theme and music is by the Jingleberries. All names, pictures, audio, and video clips are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of their respective copyright holders.